I'm really just here to explain, using the Working for Water presentation which we gave in Stellenbosch and we gave in George. Unfortunately we don't have the figures for the Eastern Cape, but we do have all the, basically to convey what has been happening in Working for Water. And I think it's very important to understand who that there's a process, there's appointment of service providers, there's successful proposals, and really things have come a bit to a grinding halt in terms of a lot of the service providing operations and what actually has happened in the past. Environmental programs, as I mentioned earlier, is one of the historical poverty relief programs in the country. In the last 5 or 6 years, their budgets have been going up to 2.2 billion. And what happened is we've had a major break in what happened before and what's happened now. And that's very important to realize that, that the COVID era has coincided with a major shift in how they deal with the finances and how they do the finances. So those of you who are interested in being service providers for this department, those of you who are interested in working for the department, need to know that how to go about it. And I get so many questions from people who say, I would really like to work for Working for Water. I really need Working for Water in my valley. I really need help from them. How do we go about it? And so I'm put up here because I'm on the outside. So anything I say, particularly on record, I'm dispensable. I can be got rid of quite quickly, whereas the department people won't tell you what I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to tell you because this is what I work with every day. And the issue is that in this new era of government, you cannot apply for funds by yourself. And that's the big question we have. You've got to come in with a team. You've got to create your area. If you want them to help you on a particular area, in a particular conservancy, you've actually got to get yourself into a group. You've got to get yourself into a conservancy, you've got to have board of directors, you've got to have meetings, and so that you can say, I come from the Fish River Conservancy, I come from the Port Elizabeth Walmer Residents Association, and then you can apply. And what they do, how the system works, is every 3 years you apply for the 1.2 billion that's available, and then they have a look, and they have a whole bunch of scientists in the Working for Water that actually are working out where we need to get rid of invasives, where the rivers are, and it's almost like a situation whereby you need to be saving biodiversity. You need to be in a river area where it's actually you're saving the river resources, and if you can combine biodiversity with river resources, with assistance on manpower, they're very keen on things like WWF and TNC, the Nature Conservancy. Those kind of operations actually offer management. So say, we'll take your money, we'll match it with donors, and then we'll keep the show on the road. Those kind of things are very, very happy. Now, when we see here identified water stress areas, the areas that are water stressed have far more chance of getting budget from this 1.2 billion that comes up every 3 years than anybody else's. So how are the service providers appointed? Well, as I said, 3-year cycles. There are numerous categories, and the categories have been changed over the last few years. The last budget categories said very specifically, these are the 10 species that we want removed. These are the areas where we have water stressed areas, and then they make it even more difficult because then they hand out the tender or the request for tenders. They hand it out at the beginning of November. So it had to be in the middle of January, which meant that in actual fact you had to work through the whole of December and most of January. And these documents are serious documents, absolutely serious. If you think you're going away for a 4-week holiday in December, when these things come out, if you go away for the 4-week holiday, forget it. When we were in Stellenbosch, the Western Cape team were telling us how municipalities, something like the numbers of service providers has gone down from 800 to about 400 or 500. So when we were talking to the Stellenbosch municipality, they said, but we need Working for Water to come and help clear in our protected area, which is a municipal nature reserve. It's looking terrible, we need help. We had Working for Water, and then now we don't have Working for Water. And the issue is that, quite frankly, in 2021, the Stellenbosch municipality didn't get their next budget. They didn't get in on the 14th of January. It was delayed until the 29th of January, so they gave everyone a couple more weeks. But there were a huge number of municipalities that did not apply to Working for Water for money. And as a result, what happens for the next 3 years, that municipal area, that municipality does not get money from Working for Water. And this system is really quite rigid. You either get in on that particular budget of the 1.2 billion every 3 years, or actually you're not on the list, and you're not on the list of service providers. And it doesn't matter how worthy your claim is for getting money, you just simply don't get it. So the numerous categories they go through, invasive alien plants, even for bush encroachment, sustainable forestry projects, and the successful applicants have to have this control plan. Now, what we haven't said is, people are saying, where do we get the permits? Where do we get the guidelines for the control plans? They're all available somewhere on that environment website, absolutely somewhere. But the communities have set up a parallel operation, and the parallel operation is invasives.org, invasives with an s.org.za. And on the website invasives.org.za, under legislation, you will see you can download the permits, you can download the control plans, and it really is shorthand, because instead of having everything that Environment Affairs deals with, it only has invasives, and it's a very good resource. And that's where all the marketing will eventually be, certainly by June. We're uploading resources at the moment. The videos are all going up. So the videos are often a good place to start, and then we will have all the Z folds up in the next month. I'm not entirely sure whether they'll be up in the next week for people who are giving talks at garden centres, but that's where they're going. So if you need something specifically, send me an email. My email is on the contents page of that particular website, and we are a sort of community of invasive species. So the issue that I'm getting to is that you need to download that guidelines for control plans, because you need, if you're doing anything in this particular world, particularly if you're an environmental practitioner, you have to know how to do these control plans. Nothing, no money will be given to you, believe it or not, by the government if you don't have a control plan. And what is a control plan? A control plan says I've got these 30 hectares, or these 10 hectares, or these 5 hectares. In the 5 hectares, I have counted 40 acacias, 40 gum trees, 40 pine trees, 10 salt bushes, 10 whatever, and it actually says this is what it is. Then it says, I'm going to clear this. Now this is the plan. I can't clear, if it's like a huge big farm of 200 or 300 hectares, you can't clear it in 1 month or 1 week. So you say, I pledge to support it, and I pledge to clear this area in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 years. And in actual fact, what some of the clever people were doing is they were handing in sort of 20-year plans, and then Steele said, no, that's nonsense, I'm not taking a 20-year plan. You can have a 5-year plan, and you've got to have a really big area, and I'll let you have a 10-year plan. And some of the more sophisticated plans, the nature reserves from Paarl and those kind of areas, those plans are very impressive. They've got fire regimes, where the fire stuff was, when they should be burning again, when they shouldn't be burning again, what's the biocontrol. So it's actually, if you want to get into this world and you actually can really work on an Excel spreadsheet in a big way, it's a good idea to get qualified in this, because people will pay anywhere between 10 and 30,000 rand for a control plan. And it needs to be ground truth. It means you get out there, you walk the ground, you put it together, and then you hand the guy a control plan. As soon as he's got a control plan, he then can apply to money for Working for Water. So there are budget allocations for the province, and obviously if you're appointed, you go onto the DFFE database, but it's actually the national database as well, and you have to follow all the supplier details with the supplier national database. Then the second thing that they did, so the first thing is you've got to be a gang, you've got to have your control plan. The third thing is you've actually got to understand that the new payment system. In the early days when Christo, Maria and Guy Preston were running the show, they were actually quite socialist in their output. They said, how can small people in rural areas clear huge big areas if they don't have a bucky, they don't have tools, they don't have whatever. So they invented a very complicated system from the public's perspective called a drawdown system. And you would say, I would like to clear these this amount of money, but the whole project over 1 year or 2 years, 3 years is going to be 10 million, but I would like to draw down a certain amount of money, and they would have drawdowns, and you would actually be able to get yourself 100, 200, 300,000 or even millions because of what you're going to clear. And with that, you could set up your teams, you could set up your buckies, you could set up all your, all the health equipment that you need and everything else, and you are fine. That's gone. Drawdowns, gone. Gone, gone, gone. Imagine now, when our new minister came in, she said that's not the way we're going to do it. That goes against the Finance Act, and we're going to do it a different way. You've got to work. You work for 30 days, and guess what? We'll pay you at the end of 30 days. So now we have a system whereby now you have to work to get paid, as opposed to getting drawdowns, which were abused quite badly, drawdowns, and then the people never did the work. So that system has been abused, and now it's gone. So now you have to work, and only then do you get paid. Which means that if you're going to be, from my perspective, again, it's keeping out little people, but it means that if you're efficient, if you're together, if you can work with your workers and plan how you're going to sort of operate the whole thing, you can do actually very well, because the number of service providers has gone dramatically down. Now you know why I'm off script, and why I'm telling you this, and why no one in the government's prepared to stand up and say this, because I'm disposable. Herbicide. They used to send out lots of herbicides. You used to be able to get lots of herbicides. The herbicides are on hold. And that largely is, and I have no information on this, but imagine a scenario. A country suddenly gets COVID. They suddenly have to put all sorts of measures into their hospitals. The country needs millions and millions and millions of rands to deal with COVID. They've got a situation where their poverty relief fund usually goes out to people to clear trees. Now imagine a scenario where you're 12 or 14 people sitting around a table in the cabinet, and you say, should we send that money out to clear trees, or actually we've got a huge problem here, should we actually send the money and sink it into health and so make people survive and that's exactly what happened. So as COVID appeared, a whole bunch of contracts were supposed to go out, they never went out. And it's put huge pressure on universities, students, it's put pressure on people who thought that their lives were dependent on the money just keeping on rolling. Because what happened is they had a 3-year contract, a beginning, a middle and an end, then the contract finished. And then they thought, well, where's the next contract? And a lot of people have lashed out at the government quite badly because they just, where the hell's the money? I mean, we're paying people, we've got, and there are contractors who haven't worked for 18 months. So everybody put in their contracts 2020, January 2020, but those contracts have not been awarded. In my opinion, the money was probably spent on COVID. But actually, who knows? And certainly I have no more information than you know. But the point is that the money wasn't spent. So that for 18 months, contractors have not been receiving, have not been informed that the next set of contracts are going to be actually put together. And it is rolling on. We heard maybe it would be the 1st of April. Well, on the 5th of April, we got a whole bunch of forms because I happen to be in that system. So I'm as an outsider, I'm watching how the system works. And last week we got another form to say the quote that you put in January 20 for the 2021 money, please will you sign a thing to say it's still live for another 3 months. And that's what's happening. And a number of people I've spoken to have said that they've also got these forms. So we're looking like the money is going to roll, but it probably is only going to roll around about July. And that means that certainly for a minimum of 18 months, but quite a bit longer, from the last contract, some of the contracts started a bit late, so people are still running their contracts from the old thing. I'm running a contract from 2018. So it is running a bit late, and I'm still on the old contract systems, but it is going to roll again. And hopefully that will alleviate all sorts of pressures. So the budget restraints, the data collection restraints have all been on there. But herbicide assistance has also been put on hold in the same system. In terms of the Western Cape, very similar to this kind of situation. You saw here the bids closed in January 2021. Contracts are not allocated yet. Service providers, some of them have been extended to April 2023, some of them have not. All depends. But there has been a huge amount that is not actually happening. And from my perspective, that really is me just giving you an outsider's perspective on what's going on. If you are in a municipality, a very good idea to even assist your municipality put those forms in. So many municipalities are not in on the 2021 operations, and that means that they just, places like Cape Town will get, 100 million, and places like, somewhere in the Eastern Cape, it's going to get zip, and largely it's getting zip because it hasn't put those forms in.
Okay.
Right.
First of all, herbicide assistance is not on hold. Just the Western Cape decided that they're going to put herbicide assistance on hold.
So here it's not on hold.
Well, we need to confirm with Unathi, because the regions were given the decision whether they're going to put it on hold or not.
Okay.
Because herbicide assistance, the regions have to, because the Western Cape is mostly service providers, so they don't have project managers or project officers, as they're called now, to go out, excuse me, to go out to do the data verification when the herbicide assistance is given out. So the Western Cape said because of their staff capacity and the limitations, they're going to put the herbicide assistance on hold. That was the Western Cape's decision. The Northern Cape are still doing herbicide assistance. Limpopo is still doing herbicide assistance. Gauteng is still doing herbicide assistance.
Does anyone here getting herbicide assistance in the Eastern Cape?
So we just need to confirm. I can't confirm because I'm not from the Eastern Cape. We just need to confirm with Unathi whether the Eastern Cape has made the decision to continue with herbicide assistance or not.
Thank you.
But it's not a national decision to put it on hold. The regions were given the decision whether they're going to continue with herbicide assistance or not.
Well, there we go.
There are already regions that are continuing.
It's a team operation here. There we go.
Just the Western Cape has put it on hold as far as I know, but I do know there are regions that are continuing with
Okay,
it.
so just a show of hands, we have no one here who's receiving herbicide assistance.
Okay, so we just need to confirm with Unathi whether it is continuing in the Eastern Cape or not.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Debbie. Good update.
Do we have any other questions for Kay with regards to the Working for Water update? The process has been... lady in front. Thanks, Warren.
Or it's not a questions to me, it's questions to the team.
Thank you. I might have missed in the beginning, but the herbicide assistance, I stand in the correction, but in order to utilize herbicide, you have to be competent. So you have to have a PCO license. How does that then correlate with receiving herbicide? I'm not quite sure how it works.
Okay, I'm going to ask that we hold your question.
You're about to get a really good presentation on that.
Right, the next presentation is going to be on exactly that, and then Debbie will be able to answer that.
So your train of thought is quite
great,
logical.
fantastic.
10 out of 10 for logic.
Okay, no more questions to the team. Listen, nobody's allowed to fall asleep just because the lights are off. We're keeping an eye on you.
Just one at the back there.
Maybe you don't know, you can't comment on this, but I just want to know, is there any collaboration between, projects and things like Working for Water and this whole United Nations decade on restoration that's going on now?
I think Kay can answer that question. There's huge collaboration with different organizations around the world, and they're definitely talking to each other. United Nations, okay?
I was very involved with the Society for Ecological Restoration Conference, and we have quite a lot to do with them. But the situation at the moment is that there are a lot of NGOs, and the NGOs, some of them work with the international people, some of them don't work with international people. The UN is its own ecosystem. The Society for Ecological Restoration is a very big ecosystem in the USA. Working World Wide Fund for Nature and TNC are big in Southern Africa, and they compete. They compete for the money from Pepsi and Coca-Cola and all the money that comes from the big corporations. So we all know each other. It's a small world, Conservation International, and some projects they work. I know in the Kruger Canyons Biosphere, TNC works with Conservation International. In the Upper Umzimkhulu, working for WWF, works very closely with TNC. In the Eastern Cape, there has been a failure of large NGOs coming in, because there are NGOs here who feel very strongly that it's their area, and the big NGOs came in, they worked for 9 months, and they all backed off. So I'm not entirely sure what happened in the Eastern Cape, but I don't understand that it's getting any major money from the Pepsis and all of those kind of people. The Western Cape's got it very together. The Greater Cape Town Water Fund has been a massive success. That is quite an operation together, and the Greater Cape Town Water Fund is literally using the high altitude teams to go into the sort of behind the Franschhoek area and take out invasives. So that entire water project, funded by very large capital American companies and a huge amount of money from the city of Cape Town. They've been able to work, but like everything in life, it's all down to teams. Can the teams of the area work? From what I gather, the Eastern Cape's not happening, but from the Kruger Canyons is completely and utterly happening. Greater Cape Town Water Fund is completely and utterly happening. And in the KZN area, they're working for water. WWF has got a really with it lady who's coordinating all of that too. So it's just who works with who. But is there a connection officially between the UN Decade of Ecological Restoration? Not really. They're doing their own thing, and you can use their material or not.